Good morning, students. So today we are going to discuss about the dermal tissues and ground tissues. Dermal tissues and ground tissues. Very simple class, very less content here. We can complete this one within 10 minutes only. Okay. So what is dermal tissue? What is dermal tissue? We know that dermal means which is the word, the term related to the skin. Dermal means the word or the terminology which is related to the skin. Before going to discuss this one deeply, just we have to observe a lab activity there. So here we have to take a rio leaf. Here we have to take a fresh rio leaf or beetle plant. Rio leaf or beetle plant. Tear it with a single stroke so that a thin whitish edge can be seen at torn end. Slowly remove it and observe that peel under the microscope. Under the microscope. After the observation, we can see that the cells completely seem looks like similar to each other. Similar to each other. In the before tissues, the cells have some different structures, different functions there. But in the dermal tissue, here we are observing these cells under a microscope which is containing some tissue of rio leaf. Here the cells arranged in a compact size and compact environment with similar structure. So now we are going to discuss about the dermal tissue. So what is dermal tissue? How it is important to the plants? So dermal means, I know, as I told you already, which is the term related to the upper surface like skin or anything. Okay. Dermal tissue usually consists of a single layer of tissues showing variations in the type of cells. On the basis of their functions and location, this tissue is studied as three different types. One is epidermis, second one is mesodermis, and the third one is endodermis. What is here? Dermal tissue usually consists a single layer of tissue which have three different types of cells, which is having three different types of cells. One is epidermis. Epi means outer. Dermi means layer. Epi means outer. Dermi means layer. Epidermis, outer layer of tissues. Second one is mesodermis. Meso means middle. Dermis means layer, the middle layer. And the third one is endodermis. Endo means inner. Dermis means layer. Endodermis. So these are the three different levels of cells or tissues which are called as dermal tissue. The walls of the cells of dermal tissue are thicker as compared to the cells of meristematic tissues. What is meristematic tissue here? Meristematic tissue means xylem and phloem. We discussed about them in the last class. When comparing to the cell wall of those xylem and phloem cells, the cell wall of the dermal cells is thick. In desert plants, it may be even more thick and waxy. In desert plants, the cell wall is more thick and it contains some amount of wax. Small pores are seen in the epidermis of the leaf called stomata. Between these dermal cells, there are some tiny holes are there. Some tiny holes will be there. Those holes are called as stomata. Which are enclosed by two kidney-shaped dermal cells. Which are called gourd cells. Cells of the roots have long hair parts called root hairs. So what is here? Between these dermal cells, there are some tiny holes are there. Those holes are called as stomata. By guarding these holes, around this hole, there are two gourd cells which are in the kidney shaped. Those are called as gourd cells. The dermal layer protects the plants from loss of water, mechanical damage, and invasion of parasitic and disease causing organisms. So what are the uses of dermal tissue here? The dermal tissue protects the plants from the loss of water and mechanical damage and invasion of parasitic causing organisms, some diseases. It can be protected from the diseases by the help of dermal tissue. In big trees, the dermal tissue forms several layers above the epidermis, which is called bark. What is here? In the big plants, in the larger trees, the epidermis have some more other layers above it. Some more other layers above it. So it is called as bark. It is called as bark. Okay. This is about the dermal tissue. And what is the use of stomata there? What is the use of stomata? So stomata means it's a tiny hole which is placed between some dermal cells, which is essential for the gases exchange. We know that plants takes CO2 inside and gives oxygen. Yes or no? Plants can absorb carbon dioxide which is releasing by the animals and human beings. So it takes inside carbon dioxide and gives oxygen to animals and humans. Yes or no? So to the exchange of those gases, stomata are very essential. Stomata are very essential. At the same time, in the case of releasing of excess amount of water, stomata can release the wastewater or excess amount of water in the plant to the outside environment. So this is about the dermal tissue. Next, we are going to discuss about the ground tissue. So what is ground tissue here? What is ground tissue here? Ground tissue means the cells which have large cell walls. The ground tissue cells means the cells which have large cell walls. Okay, these ground tissue can form the stem in the plant. The stem of the plant can be made by the ground tissue only. So it is mainly used to storing food and giving physical support for the plant. That ground tissue helpful in the storing of food. It stores some amount of food, and also it also gives support to the plant physically. And at the same time, the ground tissue is mainly three types. One is Parenchyma, second one is Sclerenchyma, and third one is Sclerenchyma. First one is Parenchyma, second one is Sclerenchyma, and the third one is Sclerenchyma. So we will discuss one by one. First one is Parenchyma. The cells of the parenchyma are soft, thin-walled, and loosely packed. What is here? The cells of parenchyma are soft, thin-walled, and loosely packed. And also, one of the most essential part in the plant leaves is chloroplast. The chloroplast is placed inside the parenchyma. And the parenchyma which is containing chloroplast is called Sclerenchyma. The parenchyma which is containing chloroplast is called Sclerenchyma. At the same time, in some parenchyma cells, there are large air cavities which contains some amount of air. In parenchyma tissue, some cells contains large air cavities. Those are helpful in the storing of some amount of air. Those are called as parenchyma. At the same time, parenchyma also stores some waste food and wastewater, which is called as storage tissue. This is about the parenchyma. And the second one is Sclerenchyma. So when compared to the parenchyma cell wall, the cell walls of the Sclerenchyma are thicker. When compared to parenchyma, the Sclerenchyma cell walls are thicker than that. This is about the second one, Sclerenchyma. And third one is Sclerenchyma. In the Sclerenchyma, the cells are thick, walled, and compactly arranged with nearly no spaces between them. The first parenchyma gives support to the plant by having chloroplast, some amount of air, and storing waste food and water. The Sclerenchyma gives some amount of mechanical support. And the third one is Sclerenchyma. It gives some amount of physical support to the plant. And also it is mostly helpful in the growing. Okay, this is about the today class. Thank you one and all.